Are you tired of the same old stories in Greek and Roman mythology? Do you find Zeus to be a brainless meathead and unworthy of being the king of gods? Then Norse mythology might be for you. Neil Gaiman's most recent work, Norse Mythology, is a series of short stories that is based off of Norse mythology, not surprisingly. And so in this Gaiman, he takes all these different Norse tales and he interweaves them in lots of different short stories to form not only a fantastical world filled with dwarves and giants and gods, that is based upon a early medieval setting, but it also is filled with sort of wise and poignant modern themes, and which is really the point of mythology ultimately. So, and he's skilled in doing so because the themes that, or the life lessons, if you will, that are that we learn from the tales are both applicable to the time of the early mythology and the times where we have times that we're living in now. So it's not something that is entirely irrelevant to our modern lives, which is a nice touch. Now, Gaiman does embellish a little bit on these tales. He is not directly transcribing anything, and that's partially because there are multiple accounts of many of these stories. He is adding his own twist on things. He is combining several different stories or different versions of the same story, and but ultimately it does come together quite concisely. It is an easy read. The language is very straightforward, but it is not a it is not a throwaway read either. And that's a difficult line to balance, but it's one that he does very well. So at the center of the tale is the god Odin, who is the father of the gods, and Odin is a much more interesting character, or not really a character, but is a much more interesting god than Zeus from Greek mythology. So, or Jupiter, if Roman mythology. So Odin is always motivated by the pursuit of knowledge, and he won't stop at almost anything to get it. There are tales of him hanging himself on a tree, of losing an eye, and of stabbing himself in the side, all to gain the pursuit of knowledge. And the first tale is about Odin, who hangs himself on the tree of Yggdrasil, and which is the tree of life or the tree of knowledge. And on this tree, the branches contain all of the fates of each of the gods, and he hangs himself from this tree in order to offer himself as a worthy sacrifice so that he might gain its knowledge. And it works. And so Odin is very fascinating to read about, and it's very, and, and Gaiman's writing subverts the general, the assumed tradition of flowery language in fantasy and mythology. And this goes back to how easy it is to read. The the writing is very straightforward, but you feel just as much in a fantasy world, and that's a skill of the writing. But it does also, at the same time, sometimes it's downfall. Sometimes it's too blunt and it's too straightforward for the gravity of the moments. Now, one quote that I'd like to share that shows the weight of his writing is regarding Odin. And it is, "If you survive in battle, it is with Odin's grace, and if you fall, it is because he has betrayed you." Overall, I gave Norse Mythology 4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it for anyone who is interested in learning more about sort of Scandinavian folklore. I definitely found it to be a great introduction in that sense, because I have been trying to get into Norse mythology, and there's too many conflicting accounts. So this gave me like kind of a crash course, and now if I go to look at the Wikipedia page, or if I look at, you know, other sources, I can kind of have a framework to understand it. Or if you're interested in Vikings at all and their sort of motivation or where they come from and their religion, or if you just like mythology in general, it is a quite easy read and it is worth it. So without further ado, I will see you next time. Toi!